Hey, this is Matt from Alpha Analyst. In this video, we're going to cover how you can land job interviews even if there's a sea of other applicants applying for the exact same job. So on average, there are approximately 250 resumes that companies receive for each of their job openings. So let's talk about how you can compete against your competition and really hone in on what it is that it takes to be able to get those job interviews and to get the job offers. So one thing that you can do is to tailor your deliverables to the job. So for example, you have your resume, you have your LinkedIn profile, you have a wide variety of other different deliverables that you put together. So the thing is, the more you can customize them to the job, the better off you are. And this includes a couple of things. One of them is adding some additional details on relevant experience and other qualifications that you already have. So for example, if you're applying for one type of job, some of your experience in the past, you might want to emphasize. And you don't want to take the same resume and give it to all of your positions. You don't want to take just one resume and submit that to every job. Instead, you want to take maybe 5 minutes per job and actually customize your resume. And in addition to adding some additional details about some experience that you have that's relevant to that specific job, you also want to remove details that are not going to be quite as relevant. So you want your resume to be consistent. You don't want to have any information that's inaccurate, but the more that you can add some details about additional relevant experience for each job, and the more that you can scale back on details that are not quite as relevant to that specific job, the more likely it is that a recruiter or a hiring manager would be more likely to have your resume proceed to the interview stage. So to a large extent, it's a numbers game. Based on one resource that I found, just to use round numbers, for every 100 candidates that you have that applies to the job, you have 25 candidates whose resumes make it to the hiring manager. So that means that the recruiters screen out approximately 75% of the resumes, and only 25% of the resumes actually make it to the hiring manager, the person who's actually trying to hire for the job. And of those 25%, approximately 4 to 6 candidates are actually invited to the interview. So only about 5%, let's say, of people who apply for a job are actually interviewed and actually have the opportunity to talk to the person who's there to hire them for the job. And of those, typically they have only approximately one job offer for one job. So the idea is that you have a lot of candidates applying for jobs. The hiring manager doesn't even see all of the resumes. For example, if your resume does not appear to be relevant, the recruiter might screen that out and it wouldn't go to the hiring manager. Only some of those actually get interviews and one job offer. So let's talk about how you can maximize this. One key point is you want to apply to many jobs, but you also want to apply to only relevant jobs. You don't want to apply to jobs for which you don't have an interest or for which you clearly would not be qualified. So if you do want a job interview and hopefully a job offer, you typically need to apply to many jobs. So if you want one job, you don't just apply to one or two jobs. It's a good idea to apply to a wide variety of different jobs to maximize the likelihood that you actually will be able to get the job that you actually want. So it is important to, as we talked about before, only apply for jobs that are relevant to your background and that truly interest you. So here's an interesting fun fact that I came across. Apparently, if you talk to recruiters, they talk about how they do spend a very significant amount of time looking at each individual resume, but they looked at the actual data as far as how long recruiters look at specific resumes in the actual systems that they use to look at the resumes. And it turns out that on average, recruiters spend only about 6 seconds looking at a resume. And this might not apply to all recruiters in all situations. This might be, for example, recruiters looking at resumes on job boards, whereas they might spend a lot more time looking at resumes for people that were referrals from within the company. So this isn't necessarily a hard and fast rule that applies across the board, but what this is intending to illustrate is that recruiters have many, many things to do, and they have a lot of resumes coming in the door. And they don't have time to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes looking through all of the different resumes to be able to find, the needle in the haystack. You want your resume to really stand out and to be clear that, hey, you're a candidate that's worth taking to the interview stage. So here are some things that you can do to maximize your likelihood of being able to move forward in the interview process. One of them is to contact the recruiter for the job. So if you want to, you can reach out to the recruiter at the company where the job is being offered, and you can just simply reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn and ask them if they have time to chat about the specific job. So if you talk to the recruiter, you have a better likelihood that they will see your name as standing out from the crowd. And if you've taken the extra step to actually reach out to them to talk about the job, not only can you find out better information about, does the job actually interest you? Is this something that you want to pursue? But the recruiter can tell that you actually care about the job if you're actually taking the effort to reach out to the recruiter to find out more about this job. Another thing that you can do is ask targeted questions about the position. So when you talk to the recruiter, you don't want to just come in cold and not know anything about the company. You want to actually research the company beforehand. You want to research the job beforehand and try to get as much of a good sense for what the job's already about before you talk to them. And if the recruiter can tell that you've done your homework, they will see you as a much more serious candidate for the job. And if they are on the fence about you as far as whether or not they should bring you in for an interview, that could be the deciding factor that gets them to bring you in for an interview. To summarize, if you reach out to the recruiter for the job to ask about the job in additional detail, this can really help your application stand out. Another great option is to work with an agency recruiter. Employers that are trying to fill their open jobs, they often pay third-party agency recruiters to find them qualified candidates for the job. Agency recruiters, they often have the inside scoop on the people that you're going to meet and interview, and they often have a good sense for the questions that you will typically be asked. Having an agency recruiter that you're working with can sometimes help you, give you some insights into what the company is about, what the company culture is, and it can really help you be much more effective in your interview. So not only can they help you get an interview for a job that might interest you, they can also help you prepare to be successful in that interview. Another way to identify and land great jobs for you would be to build up and leverage your network. So for example, if you have a great network of people that in your industry, as they become aware of jobs that might interest you, they can reach out to you. Or alternatively, you can actually send them a note if you see a job at their company that interests you. You can just send them a quick email that says something such as, hey, what's new with you? I'm looking into this type of position at your company. I saw a job opening. Can you please tell me more about this position? Or if you have any positions that open up on your team, I would be interested in that as well. So please let me know. And the more that you can build up a big network and you can leverage it, the more likely it is that you'll be able to ask people questions. Okay, what's it like to work on this team at your company? Tell me more about the people that are on the team. And you can really get the inside scoop on whether or not this is something that you actually would be interested in. Now that you've watched this video, I encourage you to download our free report on the 5 factors that determine if you will succeed as a financial analyst. Simply go to aanalyst.com/5factors, or you can simply click on the link in the video description.